guys, Marsha in the kitchen. Today I'm going to make a soup, and I'm going to be a chicken soup. I want it a little bit frothy, a little bit creamy, so but I also want some vegetables in it. And this is a great way to kind of cheat on having to cut up your vegetables and yet get some good quality. This is a pre-mixed salad. And this is the Southwest chopped salad, but in it, it has kale, green cabbage, red cabbage, carrots, green onions, green leaf lettuce. So I'm going to be using some of the ingredients from this in my soup for the veggie part. But to start out with, I'm putting my stovetop burner on high, and I've put a little olive oil in the bottom of this deep pan. So what I'm going to do first is to steam these veggies a little bit in some olive oil. It's okay, buddy. Broth goes, making his needs known. I'm not sure what those needs would be because I've just taken him for a walk and he's just had a treat. But he might want the door open so he can spy on the cat that keeps going by. Alright, so even though this is supposed to be like ready to go, I always put it in my colander and give it a little rinse just for added precaution. So, it's okay, buddy. It's okay. Let's take care of that right now. Get about the desired amount of veggies. I want to over-blend it. I want this to be more of a brothy soup with just a hint of the cabbage and kale in it, some carrots, and the green onion. Okay, so I'm going to sit that here to let that continue to drain and add a little more olive oil to the pot. Oh, I don't quite have you angled where you can see what's going on. Sorry about that. Let's see what I can do about that. If I can do this without ruining things. Alright. So I have a lot of things out on my counter because I'm doing some baking today. Once I have a little lunch and kind of get a little more energy going here. I'm not heavy on breakfast. I love breakfast foods, but I'm not one who wakes up with, usually I don't wake up with a big appetite. So I have to kind of do a little work first. Alright, so my veggies have been rinsed and drained. The olive oil is nice and hot. And I'm just putting that into the pot. You can hear that sizzle. Then let me grab my spoon. And I have one of these that doesn't stick, it won't hurt the pot. I'm just going to give it a little bit of a stir. Let those vegetables get coated in the olive oil. Now remember, I usually try to cook for one, and sometimes I'll cook enough that I can have leftovers if I want it, but I'm not a huge leftover fan. Sometimes it just depends on how delicious the dish is, I guess. But to keep from wasting, I try to just cook for one. Alright, once I've gotten these nice and coated in the olive oil, and you see the steam is coming up, I'm going to turn the burner down just a little bit, and the next thing I'll do is add some chicken broth, and then I'm going to let these veggies, I'm going to let them steam up a little bit more, and then I'm going to add the chicken broth and let them simmer in that chicken broth. So, find my chicken broth. It's in the fridge because I used it recently, and the only thing I plan to put into this soup are the veggies, the chicken broth, the chicken, and I'm actually going to use a few egg noodles, and believe it or not, I'm going to chop or slice a few, kind of chunk it up, a couple of boiled eggs. So it's kind of going to be a little, I guess, a little hint of an Asian soup. He thinks that's someone knocking on the door when I do that. Alright, so now I'm going to add my chicken broth. I don't measure. I just do an eyeball it sort of thing. I have another container, but this ends out this one. Generally, I like to use the organic chicken broth, but sometimes I will cheat a little bit and go with the whatever I can find. So I'm going to give that a stir. That chicken broth had been in the refrigerator, so it's cooled things off. So I'm going to have to bring that up to a boil. So I'm going to put that heat back up on high. Now, the leftover salad, what I plan to do with that, let's see, where did I put it? Give me a second to find what I did with the leftover salad. I may have already, I've already put it back into the refrigerator. I simply sealed it up and stuck it back in the fridge so that I can make the salad a little bit later if I want a cold salad to go with a meal. Alright, so these are the egg noodles. I don't usually keep them on hand, but I have bought, they last a long time, and I bought these a while back. So I am going to get a separate pot and start boiling the egg noodles because I just don't know. It might do fine to boil it with the chicken broth. I'll eventually put it in there anyway. But I just kind of have a suspicion that it may not get as hot as I want it to fast enough. And I'm only boiling a few. Wow, I must have did some cooking yesterday. And I must have used, here you go. I just hid the pots, I guess, from myself very well. My little ones anyway. Actually, I think that I sent a few home and may have a few in the fridge. Generally, I transfer everything, but sometimes I will stick the pot in there. That's what I did. So, just bear with me. Let me drain this and liquid off of that. I'll give this a little rinse. Wash this really well. So I hope you're enjoying the cold weather. It's cool, it's wet. I hear we may get a little snow. That would be rather interesting. It's been a long time since I saw any snow here in South Carolina. So it would be quite nice. Okay, so now that I have this pot washed and rinsed, just going to put enough water in it to cook a few of the egg noodles. Won't be cooking a lot, but I do want to have a few of those in there. It adds some texture to the soup, a little texture for the tongue, and if you don't go overboard, it won't throw everything out of kilter with your turn this down. If you're trying to go low carb. I'm not an extreme person when it comes to low carb, but I definitely have curbed my carbs substantially because I found out that carbs were the culprit in interfering with my maintaining a healthy weight. That didn't do. There you go. I'm going to add some more chicken broth. Had some in the cabinet that had not been opened. So get that chicken broth nice and up to about where I'll have maybe a couple of bowls that I can enjoy. And put the rest in the fridge because chicken broth is great to add to a lot of dishes. So I know I'll use it, no doubt about that. So the next goal is I want this water to come to a boil. Now, I'm not Italian, and so I might be doing this wrong, so my Italian friends, forgive me, but I like to put olive oil in before the water starts boiling. I just go ahead and put a little bit in, and then it helps my noodles to have a little extra something, and they don't stick together, so that's why I do that. Grab my towel. I have already decided to take a shortcut on this soup. So I am going to be using a can of white meat chicken. And this is just a little tip because my videos are really more for those that are new to cooking, new in the kitchen. My experienced cooks, you may not find a lot of tips. I'm sorry, but I'm still exploring in the kitchen myself. The classroom has always been my favorite place to be, or church, Sunday school teaching. But I have found a love for cooking, so I'm sharing what I've learned. But one little tip, when I use a can opener to open any can, I don't go all the way around. I know that can openers have the little magnet on the top that will pull this piece off, but as everyone knows, the edges of this it's very sharp. The edges are very sharp. And so I leave a little attachment so that I can pull this up gently, or I'll use a knife to make sure, a butter knife to make sure I don't cut myself on that. And then I'll drain the content of the liquid, I usually do, and rinse it. And then when I'm ready to put this in the soup, I'll just go ahead and put it in. So I don't want to put it in right now because this chicken is already finely it's very soft. And if I put it in now, it'll just shred it even more into tiny little pieces. So I want to put this in toward the last. But once I empty it, then I take this piece and push it down inside the can. That way when I discard it in with the trash, the edges are protected from, the bag of trash is protected from the sharp edges, and the goal is to keep that from cutting through the bag or anything. So leave a little attached no matter what can you open, and then when you finish emptying the contents, you can just push it back down in there, and that kind of helps with keeping the bag from going through keeping the little sharp edges from going through the bag. You see why I don't have a cooking show. I prefer just doing my cooking and then taking pictures, but I thought, you know what? Yesterday I did have a very few people over. I mean, we're talking less than 6 people or right around that. Family. We could not do our big family gathering, so we were doing in little shifts as people are able. We wore our masks. We social distanced. I mean, to the point that, I had 3 people in the living room and a couple in the family room. I pulled my little, I guess they called it like a cafe table, pulled it into the living room and had them there. And I was in there at a separate place. So we were very vigilant and very careful. But anyway, I always am a little extra lonely after I've had people in the house, because you have just the sound of someone else. So I figured today I would do a little videoing because it'll keep me company, and then I can show you how I'm making this soup. You can see how it's done in Marsha's kitchen. A lot of times it's just me looking in the cabinet in the refrigerator and saying, what do I have? What do I kind of feel like I want today? I usually build my meals around my meat, and I'm a meat lover. So I'll say, do I want chicken, or do I want, beef? Do I want pork? What is it that I want today? And so today I decided to go with chicken. So yesterday I made a huge pot of vegetable beef soup, and it was as close as to my mom's as I could get it. I must have gotten pretty close because I ended up sending it all off with family, and they offered, and I said, no, I don't care to have any more. I've got the stuff, I can make some more if I want it. And so today I'm doing chicken soup. Alright, so my water is almost to a boil. When it comes to a boil, I will add a few of these egg noodles. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and peel the eggs that I boiled earlier and slice those up. And they'll be put in along with the chicken. It's kind of an interesting thing to put eggs and chicken in a soup, but that's how I want to try it. When I get it all finished, I'll let you see the finished product. Hope you guys are having a great Sunday, and hello and goodbye from Marsha's Kitchen.